At the same time, tabletop games are really popular with neurodivergent people.
It's almost like we have a whole podcast on it, Matt.
That spoke to me so hard.
Honey, I got your number.
I'm Ginny D, and
Ginny?
I have ADHD, and there's a very good chance that you, the person watching this, have it too. I say that because I get a lot of comments from people about how their ADHD has affected the way they play tabletop games. The truth is, games like D&D can be really challenging for people like us. Sessions require long hours of sitting still and paying attention to something that only exists in your head. There are times during roleplay or combat where you are not specifically involved, but are still not supposed to get distracted. Not to mention that it's a complex game.
Wait a minute.
Allison.
I was just about to say so we're not supposed to be distracted. Is what?
So that's the point, right? Like, so whose doing is it? Is it the game master's doing that you are distracted, or is it Facebook? Or or is it Instagram? Sorry, LinkedIn. Sorry, TikTok,
Etsy.
Your taxes. Which is it? Okay.
Nope. All right. So good note out of the gate. I'm not supposed to be distracted.
Not supposed to be distracted. Okay. Good to know.
Note 1. Got it.
Requires literal textbooks of knowledge, much of which has to be remembered and held in your mind all at once. In a lot of ways, D&D specifically pushes on all the weaknesses of the ADHD mind. But at the same time, tabletop games are really popular with neurodivergent people. They allow us to...
It's almost like we have a whole podcast on it, Matt.
That we really did not think was going to make any sense. And yet, here we are. The beautiful Ginny D is speaking her truth, which is also our truth.
I love it so much. I love finding my people. This is just more proof that that's all we're doing out here.
Mm-hmm.
Build community and be impulsive or experimental without real life consequences. So how do we reconcile this? How can people with ADHD deal with our differences so that we can experience the games we love without stress and struggle and shame? Navigating tabletop games with ADHD is a journey. Thankfully, I have a map. But first, everyone experiences ADHD differently. Some of us deal with hyperactivity or impulsivity. Personally, my symptoms mostly fall under the inattentive category. Some people struggle specifically with math or memory or rejection sensitivity. Some people have ADHD and don't struggle with any part of D&D. This video won't solve
Did you point to me for rejection sensitivity?
Sorry, I messed up. I messed up from the get-go because I meant to say impulsivity, inattentiveness.
Yes. Hi, by the way, if you're brand new and watching this and wondering who are these two chuckleheads, my name is Allison.
Yeah. And I'm Matt. And we have a podcast called ADHD20, which finds the intersection between ADHD and
TTRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we have explored a whole lot in and on and through and because of this podcast is how my impulsive type of ADHD and Matt's inattentive type of ADHD can be for us as humans, as friends, as coworkers, and as players. So, wow.
So we were excited when Ginny D put this video out because at Gen Con 2023, we went to a panel where she and the Dungeon Dudes and other creators were talking about creating in this world. And Jenny just spoke up and said, I have ADHD. Just like came out, and we were so psyched because we're like, we got to know more about this. And then here it is. One of us. We do like to hide the fact that we have ADHD. Please continue, Jenny. Yes.
Yeah, we've definitely not made it our entire personality.
Every person. Instead, I want to share some ideas and help you identify what you need in order to be successful in your own tabletop games and learn how to ask for those things.
Side note, I'm already distracted. This is so beautiful. We need more props. Continuing now.
Yes.
Looks like the first stop on our journey is the Forest of Focus. Let's check it out.
Okay, we're with you, Jenny. Let's go.
Bag and everything.
She's in the forest.
One of the biggest struggles for people with ADHD is focus. But it's not necessarily that we can't focus. It's that we can't regulate our focus. That's why sometimes we struggle to pay attention, while other times we fixate or hyperfocus, neither of which is fully within our control. And this isn't just a feeling we have, this is a chemical difference in our brains. Research suggests that people with ADHD actually have lower levels of the neurotransmitters and hormones related to focus. What that means is that sometimes sitting in one spot and paying attention to a D&D game for hours at a time is really hard, even if we love the game and are interested in what's happening. And this gets exponentially harder during the parts of the game where we aren't directly engaged, like when it's not our turn in combat, or when our character isn't actively involved in a scene. So how can you make it easier to focus during games? One of the most common coping strategies is fidgeting.
This is my favorite framing of ADHD ever. I'm just going to go out and say it. Something we have talked a lot about is that attention deficit disorder is such a misnomer for what it is we're actually experiencing it. And so framing it as a focus regulation thing, I just this breaks my brain.
Yeah,
in
it's
all
great.
The right ways.
I know, and I don't think a lot of people still understand that. They're like, oh, you don't have focus. That's
not it.
She said it very well. We absolutely have focus. We just can't control the focus.
Regulate. And now that she is moving on to talking about fidgeting, I'm going to pull out my personal favorite fidget.
Yeah, where's
toy.
mine?
Here we go.
Pretty much anything that's close by.
I'm going to pull this out so I can fidget with it and pay attention to her more fully. Let's go.
All right.
If you're the kind of person who has a habit of tapping your foot or chewing on a pen, you're basically
Or
already
rocking
doing
back
it.
and forth. Yes.
Research has shown that fidgeting can make it easier for people with ADHD to focus. That's because ADHD minds lose focus when they're understimulated, and sitting still is basically the definition of understimulating. Occupying yourself with some small activity helps keep your brain active so you don't check out. But there is a line to walk here. A fidget shouldn't take up so much of your attention that you tune out the game. It's also really important that your fidgeting isn't distracting to other players. Some popular options are knitting or crocheting, doodling, or playing with a fidget toy. Personally, I take really unnecessarily detailed notes, like I keep a color-coded spreadsheet of all the NPCs we meet, and another one tracking our quests, plus weekly session notes.
Okay, that sounds really complicated. Sorry, that sounds really complicated. That sounds like actual work within that. But that's the whole point. It's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. What are you doing to have that kind of stimulus so that you can focus better? It's such a weird thing, and it's so hard to explain to other people. The other day, we were having a meeting with my brother, and he was really, really distracted by a clicking sound. Well, it was me. It was me clicking, but I just didn't want to own up to it because I was like, oh yeah, right. Because it is annoying. But whatever allows me to focus sometimes is what I got. Yeah, I put down the clicker, picked up something better. Anyway.
I mean, I obviously knew it was you because I knew it wasn't me making the clicking noise. And if Evan was annoyed by a process of elimination, pointed to you. But that brings up a good point of like making sure your distractions aren't not distractions, but your fidgets aren't distracting others.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something to kind of think about. Like even this kind of makes a noise. Sometimes I do have my iPad with my coloring app, but I know that when I do that, there's a tap, tap, tap to it as my Apple Pencil hits it. So yeah, I'll keep thinking that. And I want to be the Lord Keeper. I want to be the note taker. I think that sounds like a lot of work for us because that is not itching our brain in a healthy way, but there are people for whom love that. Yeah. And so it's still a great note. It's just not.
It is.
Obviously, everything she's going to share in this is not going to be for everybody.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's okay. Keep talking, Sunshine Jenny.
And for me, because each different piece of information needs to be categorized in a different document. For some people, a mindless phone game meets this need, but I do think it's worth mentioning that our phones are created specifically to distract us. So be mindful of how you're using your phone and use your notification settings and focus modes to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure.
This actually is something that I do that I think y'all think I'm playing on my phone on social media when I'm actually just playing a mindless game. That's what I'm doing when I'm looking down. When I'm not actively involved in a scene, I'm doing that to like keep my hands busy. But I still am hearing every word y'all are saying.
But you know, we're pressing on a couple of the topics that is very interesting, where I'm fully aware that your face pointing a different direction, whether it's at a game or something else, that's what you need to, but it's still hard for other people, including myself, who completely understands, right? Like, I don't ever say anything, at least anymore, because I know what is happening, but I get why people are like, hey, are you paying attention? But we are.
Promise.
And on the topic of setting yourself up for failure, it's also harder to focus when you're uncomfortable or tired or hungry. Pay attention to what your body needs in order to support your brain. Maybe that means making sure that you eat before sessions, or bring snacks, or making sure that you wear comfortable clothes. I know we can't always control whether or not we get enough sleep, but if you know that you're not a morning person, maybe don't sign on for a D&D game that starts early. Personally, I try not to play D&D in the evenings because I'm a little baby and I get sleepy at 8 p.m. I also wanted to repeat something that really stuck with me after watching the video on the How to ADHD channel about tabletop gaming. In this video, clinical psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Kilmer points out that for those of us who have prescription medication for our ADHD, we're often told to take this medication to help with work or with school, but sometimes our social activities or hobbies also require focus, and it's okay to take your meds before D&D if it helps you engage with the game.
I really love this part, simply on a very personal level, because I actually have guilt for taking Adderall before gaming sometimes. I don't always do it.
Really?
But I do, because I try to give myself a little medicine break, because number one, it works better if I give myself little breaks. Number two, I can stay on the lowest dosage ever and not get used to it. But it really, really helps. It really helps me to, as a dungeon master or even a player, to take a little bit on before a game for those focusing reasons. I think I can tell the difference when I do and I don't. I don't know if anybody else could, but I certainly do. So I love hearing this, because it isn't said enough, and it's not about medicine. It's just like using the tools if you've got them. It's okay. Yep. Like, it's not just about you have to do work, because that's actually dangerous too, because you don't want this medicine to just be about one thing that is like work. Like, it starts to take on a negative connotation, therefore my guilt that I need to get over. Thanks to Ginny, I'm getting over it today.
Today's the day.
Yeah, thank you.
Kilmer says, you're allowed to have the same kind of support for your hobbies as you are for your work or your school. Now, you might be thinking, oh, so your tip for focus is to do whatever helps us focus. Great. And I get it. It sounds obvious. But a lot of us with ADHD have spent our lives being told that our symptoms would disappear if we just tried harder, or that the methods we use to cope are wrong or not allowed. So part of this is just me giving you permission to set yourself up for success. It's not shameful to need help to focus on D&D. It doesn't mean that you don't care about the game or that you're not trying hard enough. Equip yourself with the tools you need to give your brain a fighting chance. And speaking of tools, it is time to visit the next place on our map. Let's go!
Oh, creative genius.
Welcome
Ginny
to
D.
Simplicity Citadel. Some people insist that D&D is not a complicated game, but I don't think it's in any way irrational to be overwhelmed or intimidated by a game that requires a textbook to play, especially if you have a neurodevelopmental disorder that impairs your memory and information processing. That's why the second...
Raise your hand if you've never read the Player's Handbook. Oh, cool.
No. Okay. Let's rephrase it. Raise your hand if you've never read all of the Player's Handbook. How about this, though? Who here, who is mostly a dungeon master, has never read the entire DM's guide? Nope.
I was just about to say, so yes, I've read parts, I've scanned parts of the Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
I've never even cracked open the Dungeon Master's Guide as a DM. Cool.
It's well written. It's very well, but she's right. It is a textbook.
It's homework.
It is a full on textbook. And every time I do open it and I randomly go to a page, I'm like, oh damn, I've been doing that wrong. Or I didn't know about this alternate rule. It's all in there. It's all in there. But it's a textbook.
Every time I'm watching Critical Role and I watch Matt Mercer like pick up and like rules lawyer, I'm like, what's that like? What's that like?
What is it like to have that? What is it
like? And be so well versed in it that like he's able to just like flip it open and find what he needs easily. Like that proves like how well rehearsed he is with it. When when things look easy, you know that the rehearsal was hard. Is kind of general rule.
Amen, sis.
Stop on the journey to playing tabletop games with ADHD is to make the game easier. One way to do this is to organize the information that you need to play in a way that makes sense to you. There are a ton of resources out there to help you do this. People have redesigned character sheets to be color-coded or to use symbols and icons to make it easier to read. You might want to create a flowchart to help you decide exactly what to do during combat.
Yeah, that's
or
great.
write your abilities on index cards so that you can look at the specific information that you need instead of the text wall of the whole sheet. Some people find that resources like D&D Beyond are easier to use than a paper character sheet. It even has digital dice and will add your modifiers for you, which
that was the game changer for me getting into D&D.
For sure.
If you remember our first few sessions, I was trying to run my character off of a spreadsheet, and it was like
it was a nightmare. Yeah, it was a mess.
And I remember when y'all introduced me to D&D Beyond, I was like, I could just click buttons. Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, it changes a lot, and I'll also say the either the index card, but especially the flow chart. I forget to do it sometimes, but whenever I think about doing it and I do it, it is so great. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. It's
Flow
fantastic. Charts. Yeah. I do it less now that I am more familiar with playing, but as a beginner, I absolutely had just a piece of paper with like the quick, because I usually play casters, like the quick things that I was going to grab for. And it was burning hands every time.
It can be a game changer for people who have a hard time with mental math. Personally, I created my own cheat sheet to make sure that I always have the information I need all collected in one spot, and in an order that makes sense to me. Mine is specifically for combat because that's where I tend to feel the most pressure. Everyone is waiting on me, and I hate when I realize after my turn is over that I had an ability I could have used but forgot about. For example,
I wanted to mention something about what she said. Makes sense to me. Like that is so incredibly overlooked in the world, not just D&D, but of any manner of media, be it book, website, television, app. All of it is the fury that we can feel when our brains do not get the UI UX of something is extreme. It can be extreme. Like I will shun an entire operating system because it just doesn't fit my brain. You know, it's not like I'm this or that fanboy. It truly is like Windows sucks because I don't get it. I don't like the way it works. Yeah. And I think she's really getting a good point is like, you're always allowed, player or GM, to match and mix. And the better that you get at highlighting and pulling out the information and then putting it in the way, and it doesn't have to be a logical way. It could be like green things, and you shove all your green spells, like, you know, the green sword one and green eggs and ham, the spell. And
yes, that very popular spell.
So anyway, I love this note because it really is important. It does not have to fit anybody else's jam as long as it fits yours.
That's my jam.
That's my jams.
My green eggs and jam.
Has a feature called Instinctive Pounce, which lets me move up to half my speed when I enter a rage. On D&D Beyond, this feature is tucked away in the middle of a bunch of other miscellaneous abilities in the Features and Traits tab. Yeah. But on my combat cheat sheet, I put it at the very top because it's something that I need to remember at the beginning of combat. Of course, some information is complicated no matter how you write it down. Yeah. You might decide to avoid certain classes if that class's features are hard to wrap your head around. For example, in order for spellcasters to make decisions during gameplay, they either need a comprehensive understanding of their spells or the ability to read the text of a spell and quickly understand it. Either or both of these things might be challenging for someone with ADHD. Spell cards or even a printout of your spells might help, but some players prefer to just avoid spellcasting altogether. Personally, while I've played almost every type of caster, I tend to prefer playing casters with set spell lists, like
that spoke to me so hard. The times that I've had wizards or clerics or
druids,
I was like, I'm going to spend the entire time reading about the spells. I need to know. I need to be half caster or even warlock or sorcerer or something. It's like I'm boxed in.
I've never played a cleric and don't have a lot of desire. The one time I played a druid and I loved it, but it was in a very different campaign than the type you and I normally play in. And honestly, at first I was like, cool, I can update my spells daily. I mostly didn't.
Right.
I had the ones that I used on lock. And then, you would know, like, if I'm going into this, I might want to pack Greater Restoration and I might flip out one or two. So then there is another one. If you are going to play one of the daily update, I reset at dawn type of casters, do yourself a favor and have your core and then like one or two that you flip out. Otherwise, it overwhelms City.
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Good job, Jenny.
Sorry.
Kinds of casters who pick their spells every long rest, like clerics or druids. That way, I can make sure that I fully understand every spell that I have prepared. Now, you'll often hear people say that folks with ADHD struggle with object permanence. That isn't technically true because object permanence
it's almost like we've talked about that in our podcast.
Still exists when you can't perceive it, and obviously we understand that. Babies have object permanence before they're even a year old. But the reason that this phrasing is so common is because forgetfulness is a very common symptom of ADHD. And when you can't see something, it's a lot easier to forget about it. So regardless of what you want to call it, a lot of people with ADHD have an out of sight, out of mind problem. Here it is.
Very nice.
This is something that the Azrai addresses in a lot of detail in his video about D&D and ADHD, which I'll link in the cards. He talks about how D&D is full of invisible information, not just the things we're supposed to picture in our minds, like locations and characters, but game mechanics too, like concentration on a spell, remembering where you fall in initiative order, or remembering when specific abilities become relevant. That's why I find it really helpful to have physical items to turn invisible game mechanics into visible cues. The most common example of this is using maps and minis, whether that be a gridded mat with lines drawn on it or full-on 3D terrain. I know some people really love theater of the mind, but I really struggle with it because it's very hard for me to hold all that information about the setting and the monsters in my mind, no matter how beautiful or detailed the DM's description is. But maps and minis are far from the only place that you can utilize physical props to aid your memory. You can use cards to make initiative order visible, condition rings to remember when somebody's hexed or stunned or paralyzed or blessed, a marker to remind you when you're concentrating on a spell. There are inspiration coins, there's bardic inspiration dice, bless dice. There are all kinds of fun ways to keep track of your spell slots, like this Tome of Spell Storing from Dungeon Bones. There are tons of products that you can buy for this stuff, but you can also DIY any of this.
One thing that we do that you started, Matt, I'll give you props here. That then we play in person very, very little. Our party, Matt and I included, all live in different cities from one another. So I was 3 years into playing D&D before I ever got to play a live game. I have DM'd some live games where I live for other friends.
Yeah.
Even when I do that, I have continued to use a virtual tabletop as opposed to, it's just easier. It's easier for me. And it kind of goes back to that, like, do whatever is the lowest lift.
Yeah.
So I can set everything up ahead of time, including my maps, then, have a monitor or a way to project to the TV or something like that, even when we're playing in person.
Yes, it has become kind of the thing. And plus I'm very scared of getting into minis.
Yeah.
Cost-wise.
One
I'm
thing
very scared of it.
I'm already a dice gremlin. Let's not add minis.
Let's not add that.
Same. Yeah. I think my impulsivity would definitely take over that. That's where all my money would go.
You can use dice or buttons for miniatures. You can track initiative with folded scraps of paper. And of course, if you're playing online, all of these things can be done digitally. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to externalize something that you're usually expected to remember.
Very good. Remembering to blow out the candle.
By
Fire
now, you
safety.
should have a pretty good idea of what you need to be successful when playing D&D. But you're not the only one at the table. So the final stop on our journey is my all-time favorite tavern, the Talking Tankard.
Ooh. Let's go. You left never mind.
Tabletop gaming is a social experience, which means it's crucial to communicate with your game master and your fellow players, both for your benefit and for theirs. Ideally, this conversation happens during session 0, but it's never too late to talk about it, and it needs to be an ongoing conversation, because everyone's needs and experiences shift over time. Real talk, I know it may seem easy for me to sit here and say, you don't need to be ashamed of how your brain works, as if that's just a switch you can flip.
Yeah.
If your experience with ADHD has been anything like mine, you've spent your life being told that you're just lazy, or stupid, or not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to unlearn, but I hope in this specific context you can let yourself accept that some parts of tabletop gaming may be more difficult for you than for a neurotypical person. And that isn't your fault. It's okay to need help, and it's okay to ask for help. You can tell your game master and fellow players where your areas of difficulty lie, so they can be understanding and give you grace. You can ask for accommodations to be made, both inside and outside of the game. And it's worth noting, they can also say no. Maybe the things you need from a game aren't things that your game master or party can provide. And it's okay to choose not to play at a table that can't or won't accommodate you. You deserve to find a table where you can be yourself and enjoy the game without feeling the constant pressure to mask your symptoms and cosplay as a neurotypical person.
Oh. Whew.
We've also talked about this in great detail, and I just love it. I mean, really. I mean, I know we're not alone, but the reason that this video has gotten so much attention, even though it's not something that she usually does, and it's it probably took some bravery in some ways for her to do this, but she's saying all the right freaking things. When we talked about making people comfortable at the table, we're stumbling into it, right?
Yeah.
I think we're all stumbling into it. Everybody with ADHD, everybody who plays D&D, we're all stumbling together into it. So it feels so good to hear the reiteration and to hear her say, find the group. Man, it's always going to come down to the group, because you should ask. You deserve to ask for things at your table that are hard for you. Somebody might say no, and that's also justified. And if they say no and you can't deal with it, please come find us and play with us, because Jesus, we were designed to help your neurodivergent brain play D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just did something in our 4-year-long Strahd campaign. We never had a session 0 with that campaign.
That's right.
We were all so new to all of this that there were just things that we just didn't do. We just sat down and started playing one day and then never stopped. We were missing one of our party members, and Matt, had a lot going on, and it was like, well, why are you spending another day planning when we don't even have the full party together? So we called it, what did we call it? Like session 0.5, where we just stopped. We just stopped time, and it played out like a fireside chat in game, but it gave us the freedom to kind of like move through what is and isn't working for our character's specific goals. Yeah. And I think we all came out like a little bit stronger and kind of understanding, because if you've ever played Curse of Strahd, it can be a tense situation. Yeah. And you're feeling very, very time bound, which leads to things like catastrophizing and rejection sensitivity dysphoria and all these other things, both in game and above table. So if you haven't tried that, there's my official tip for you watching this video is find a break point and like just sit down and have like a chat with your party. Yeah. And
that it's great. Call it what you want. 0.5. Yeah. It really does. It really did help. And you don't have to be in character. It can be, but I knew that it was from your characters. So cool. It was cool. Cool beans.
Yeah.
And I know it can be hard to ask for things, so let's go over a few requests together that might help players with ADHD. Obviously, not all of these accommodations will make sense for everyone. This isn't a substitute for an actual dialogue, it's just a starting point. You can borrow some of this language to talk to your own game master, or feel free to just link them directly to this video to start the conversation.
Hey, Matt.
Let's start with
There's a video from Ginny D I want you to
Some
watch.
people with ADHD suffer from time blindness, or maybe chronically late. A flexible start time might help, or maybe a little reminder in the group chat before the session. Some players might benefit from shorter sessions if they have trouble maintaining focus for more than a few hours at a time. And regardless of session length, most players with ADHD, and let's be honest, other people too, find it helpful to take breaks. It could just be 5 minutes every half an hour or hour, just long enough to stand up, move around, and reset. If a player with ADHD has trouble remembering and keeping track of their materials, maybe the DM could hang on to stuff like their character sheet and dice and miniature in between sessions. For a forgetful player, detailed recaps before the session can help jog their memory. If another player takes notes, maybe those notes could be shared with the whole group for reference. Even if you normally have a low technology table, maybe a player with ADHD would benefit from
That's not us.
allowing them to use their phone or their laptop freely during games. While I love the immersion of background music or sound effects, that kind of thing might be distracting for a neurodivergent player.
And this is another interesting thing. When I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. So one thing that is difficult for me as a game master is the feeling that I need to provide music as a backdrop. My brother loves music, and I'm sure you do too. I mean, I live with a deaf person, so I do not live with constant music going on, but I know that at least Evan and Fitz do. And Evan, it really changes his mood. It really gets him going. It's a really important thing. It is purely distracting to me. Not necessarily to hear it if someone else is playing it,
But to have to think through.
But I cannot think. I'm gone.
Yep.
So this, again, Jenny's kind of giving me permission to say, because I think recently we figured out how. So here's another tip. If another player is interested in providing that background music and it doesn't distract you as another player, find a way to give them the power. Outsource it, because holy moly, giving that away is just such a relief. To find the music, to find the combat, to remember to play things. So I love this part too.
And my idea here is when I DM, and I'm with you, like it is way distracting for me to have to stop and find the right vibe. When I DM and I have music involved, I have 2 playlists: ambient background, battle. And I don't so I will switch back and forth between those 2, but I do not switch songs in between.
Yeah, it's smart.
And so then that way I can give people some ambiance without me putting any thought behind it whatsoever. Because usually I can feel in touch with the music enough to be like, okay, we're out of battle. We can relax now.
And you could probably wire it up to one of these dudes or something like that, and you could just, have one button that you could press. Roll initiative, boom, combat music. We lived and beat the dragon. Boom, back to your playlist.
Will 2024 be the year that I get a Stream Deck? Maybe it's time.
Probably.
Maybe it's time.
Similarly, side conversations amongst the party can make it really hard to focus on the main action. This may mean doing your best to limit distractions. When you need to catch the attention of a player with ADHD, they might ask that you call on them by name. This can be especially helpful in combat, particularly if you give them a heads up on the turn before theirs, so they have a quick second to refresh their memory on the battlefield and just make sure that they're ready for their turn. There may be certain obstacles within the game that are harder for a person with ADHD to work around. For example, some players really have a hard time with puzzles. That's why it's a good idea to provide multiple options for how to resolve a problem, and be prepared to turn any given challenge into a dice roll, so that if the player can't solve it, their character still can. Honestly, that's just a good DM habit overall. No matter what specific accommodations a player with ADHD may ask for, there's one that we should all get, and that's just understanding. For people who don't experience this disorder, it can be hard to wrap your head around. It might not look like someone with ADHD is listening or paying attention, even when they are. Something that seems easy for a neurotypical person may not be easy for someone who has ADHD. And even if you yourself have ADHD, that doesn't mean that you experience it exactly the same way that someone else does. If we want to enjoy playing together and connecting over tabletop games, we need to give each other some grace. Brains are weird, and we're all just doing our best.
Yes. Yes, Ginny. Yes.
They are weird.
What was that, I wonder?
I've tried plenty of other tabletop games, and despite the parts of D&D that are hard for me, I can't help it. I just love it. It's my favorite game. But if you don't feel that way, you might want to experiment with tabletop games that have shorter sessions, lighter rules, easier gameplay. Or you can just play D&D differently. Maybe you'd prefer to play a drop-in character or an NPC, so you don't have to be present and engaged for the whole time every single session. We get to decide how we play D&D, so make it work for you. And of course, if you love D&D but find playing difficult, hey, maybe you'd have a better time DMing. I've heard a lot of people with ADHD say that they find running a game way more mentally stimulating than playing. Of course, then you'd have to deal with the session prep and organizing the information and insecurity about your performance, and maybe I need another video for that one.
I immediately wrote in the comments, please do that.
Yeah.
Please have a DM version, because that's obviously where I found myself. That's where I lay in the scheme of things. That it is more satisfying for me to have to juggle these things. It's more stimulating, and therefore, in some ways, it's easier. I've mentioned the things that it's not easy, but the important things. But yes, all the other things that she mentioned, the organizing, the prep, that's also very, very, very hard for me too.
Well, and one thing that I learned about myself when I started trying to DM as a player with ADHD is it is not the best use of my personal brain space to be a campaign DM. And I think that there is no shame in that game. So we learned pretty quickly I am a good one-shot DM. Because
and that's hard for me.
Yeah, for me, the mental load was carrying the story session to session. And like, I think really, if it comes down to it, like one extra thing you toss your way to have to juggle when you're a campaign DM is finding the ending point. Do I want to end on a cliffhanger? Like, I'm looking at the time. I know so-and-so has to go at this time. Whereas when you were a one-shot DM, you know where you start and you know where you end. And then you just kind of use the time between to shove your players into the rooms you need them in. And that works really, really well for my particular flavor of Neurospice. So yeah, don't be afraid. Like, campaigns are not for everyone. That's something that we focus on, is making the barrier to playing these games as low as possible. Yeah. So don't think you have to jump into a campaign. Grab a pre-generated character and play a freaking one shot, and then decide if you might like this or not. Because a lot of times when I ask people, like, why aren't you interested in playing? They're like, oh, I don't, hours to set up a character, weeks to play games. I don't have that kind of free time. And I'm like, well, I am, doing that. Not everybody has to.
Right. Exactly.
Amazing.
Loved it. Loved that video. That was fun.
That journey for all of us. Any other final parting shots?
Yeah, I also wanted to speak to how lovely the little touches of cinematography were, and just the thought and care that went into this. I'm a fan of Ginny D, but I'm a fan of a lot of other creators as well. I think that she did such a good job with this video in particular, and because she really cares, right? And another thing that was really neat is, basically now, which is end of February, marks a year that this horrible OGL drama happened, right? A year ago, Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro really broke our hearts. They really scared us with some practices that really endangered people like Ginny's livelihood. Not ours so much, but yet, right? But it really scared her, and Mike Shea and all of these other people that just, they do rely on this game, but they love it. They love it. And and he said the exact same thing this week, Mike Shea, who Sly Flourish. He said the exact same thing. He's like, I can't help it. I know that people want to bash D&D at this point, or have in the past. He's like, I can't, I will always play it. And we've said very, very similar things, that it is. So I love that, ADHD aside, That these people, they're real people and they really do care. They care enough to make these videos about their neurodivergent brains. They're approachable, and they're telling it like it is, which is just touching and cool.
Yep. I know that Matt and I have discovered so much about ourselves through the game that we play as players, as game masters. We've been able to discover more about our ADHD. In fact, my introduction to rejection sensitive dysphoria was through one of my characters. And I was like, oh, I've understood better what masking is because of this game. Because you feel like you have to play a part, and we get that in game and then we get that in life. So yeah, it's a really beautiful spot for neurospicy types. There are a lot of us out here.
Yeah, don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Join us. That was very scary. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
We even have a whole episode of ADHD20 discussing is D&D a cult, and then we come on here and say things like, don't be scared, join us.
Don't be scared, join us.
But yes, and to everything that you just said. Yes, and to everything Ginny just said, and we're looking forward to continuing to be a part of this whole neurospicy plus D&D conversation. Yay!
Amen.